Welcome back. I am working on this commission of the coast of France, the southern coast of France, the Mediterranean Ocean there. It's called the Côte d'Azur. And anyway, now I am working on the trumpet vine here. It's going to be cascading over this building and arch and doorway. So I began with mixtures of cadmium orange plus alizarin crimson, and I just start blocking the flowers in. I want to do my flowers first because that's I want the color to stay nice and crisp. And you'll see when I come to add the greens back in, I'll explain more what I'm talking about. But always paint, most cases I paint my flowers first and then my leaves last. And that's just so that my brush, you'll see when I'm painting the leaves around the oranges and flower color that my brush picks up some of that underlying color. And if I were to paint the greens first and then paint the orange, the greens would dirty my blossoms. So I'm going to do these. And I kind of have an idea where I want my flowers to be. There'll be green foliage underneath. The light's coming in from the upper right, so these flowers on the right side will have some highlights of this is cadmium orange plus cadmium yellow medium. I use a large bright brush that's got a square end, and I can use that. I can use the flat edge to cover a large area, or I can use the corner of the brush to make smaller brush strokes. And when I painted my red door, I left a little area here because I want the flowers to break out over the door. And that was in my initial oil wash sketch, and I didn't want to forget that. So I bring some of these flowers out over the door. I've saved my red color so I can go back in and paint in between those. And this alizarin crimson plus the cadmium orange just makes a nice deep rusty color. And now this is cadmium orange plus cadmium red light. I just want a variety of oranges and reds in there. If you look at flowers in nature, they're just not all just one flat color. There's lots of variation within them. And some of those blossoms down here. Okay, so I've got my flowers pretty well blocked in. I want to come back in here with some of my door color and just the shadow on the door. This is cadmium red deep plus alizarin crimson. I just kind of want to paint around some of these blossoms. You'll see in a moment I'll put some little stems and stuff in there, but just want to paint around where those blossoms are. And I'm even going to pull you can see the edges of the boards I've highlighted. And this, I just want to pull these highlights in because that door will kind of be peeking through my flowers. I want to make sure that's in there. Make sure this is covered. I don't have my door completely covered right here. Don't want any of those little white dots of the canvas sparkling through there. And this will I'll have a little brighter flower in here. And some of these will tip out here. Okay, now I'm going to begin putting in some of my foliage. This is sap green plus lemon yellow. use a little bit bigger brush here. Clean my brush real well, get all the flower color out of there. As you can see, I use quite a bit of toilet tissue. In fact, when COVID first started, I was really in a quandary trying to get enough tissue so I could paint. It wasn't like I was using it in the bathroom, but I go through a lot of toilet tissue, and I was having a hard time getting enough to paint. I had friends who would, when they went to the grocery store, we were limited to 2 rolls, like most people were, and so they would get 1 or 2 packages. They'd get 1 package for me and 1 package for themselves. And now that's good friends. Just paint around the, now see, I've been painting that green around the orange, and you can see how my brush has picked up some of the orange on there. It doesn't, and if I go back in, it makes that, it doesn't matter if I bring some of the orange into the cream because it just kind of mutes that color. But I wouldn't want to bring some of the green into the orange because then my flowers wouldn't stay nice and bright. And I also worked some darks in here. This is phthalo blue plus liquid, just to give me some coolness in the shadows. And I also have make a few brush strokes of my phthalo blue plus white. Again, you want variation within your foliage and make it interesting. You want people to look at just a tiny little section of your painting and just have a lot in there. But you can see how I can use the corner of that brush to make the leaves. Clean out my brush. I'm just getting too much paint in there. I need to mix a little bit more of my green. Put out a little more paint. I didn't put out enough. I usually try to mix more than I'm going to use, but sometimes I miscalculate and don't get quite enough paint mixed up. It's easy enough to do. All right, we're ready to go again. Get my dark green there. And again, that's sap green plus cadmium or lemon yellow. I guess it's cadmium lemon. Some companies call it Hansa yellow. It's just, there's a variety of names for the same color. But I'm just covering all those white places, and then I'll come back in and define my flowers. Bring a few little leaves in between the orange. But see, you can see how my brush is picking up that orange. And if I had painted the green first, then when I painted the orange flowers, it would have picked up the green on my brush and made my oranges dull and muddy them. I'm going to move to a little bit smaller brush now, quite a bit smaller. Get some little darks in here. I'm going to have some hollyhocks extending up here, so I don't want my trumpet vine to come down any further. I'm going to put a few more greens right in here against that shadow so that my flowers actually extend up into the shadow area so they don't compete with the sunlight hitting the red door. And I'm going to come in and bring that shadow down underneath a little bit further on the door. And again, I want to put the highlight on the edge of that board. brush real well. Just want a variety of color in there. Trumpet vine is really pretty. But I'll tell you what, if you plant any, it is invasive. It will take over. Puts out little seedlings and stuff, which if you've got a big area that you want covered, it's just perfect. But if you want to keep it in a confined space, you're going to be pulling up those little seedlings all the time. Okay, now I'm going to come back and start adding the highlights on my flowers. And I have to be very careful when I get next to the green and just lay that. See, I picked up some of the green on my brush. You can see it in there. I have to be very careful to just kind of lay the color on the canvas. A little bit more of my orange and cadmium yellow medium, my little highlight color. And again, I'm working over that green. So see how my brush picked up that green? And that's, I've just got to keep cleaning it so that I don't bring that back into my flowers. Just going to get a little more highlights on this side. Let's see, get some highlight here. These up here are going to still be in shadow. Again, now I'm just working over that green. You can see where I picked that up on my brush. And this took years of practice and learning, and it just is. But over time, I discovered this method, and this is what works for me. Different people find different things that work for them, and that's the joy of being an artist. I mean, we can all paint the same scene, and it's going to come out differently. We all have our individual ways of working, and that's just the joy. I mean, we can share ideas and things that we do. There's no need to be selfish and hoard, because everybody's different and they see the world differently, and their paintings are going to be different. So freely share. That's just part of being an artist and helping others. And Jack and I have had so many people help us along the way that we just feel that it's a blessing, and it's our mission to help others. Now that he's in heaven, I just want to continue his legacy of generosity. And sharing ideas and tips with others is just part of that. I'm going to bring a few little flowers down here in shadow. Okay, now I'm going to put a few little stems and streamers and this is fine liner brush, and I can just, it's real easy to pull these into that wet paint underneath. You don't want to wait till it's dry because you get so many lumps and bumps. It's really hard to make smooth little lines. And I love to add little tendrils coming out, catch the light. Now these stems over here are going to be darker because they're against a light background. There's dark ones here. And these little flower buds. And there's a few lighter ones in here. Light's catching them. Now I want to add the deep centers in these trumpet vine flowers. So I take my alizarin crimson plus a little bit of liquid. And I'll use my maul stick to steady my hand here. This hooks over the top of my easel, and I just use that to rest my hand on. This hook actually was made for lifting clothes off of a tall clothes rack in like a store or something, or in those closets that have double-decker clothes racks. But we found it in Container Store in 1999, I think it was, and 1998, and the minute Jack saw it, he said, "Oh my gosh, that would make a wonderful maul stick." So they were $19.95, and somebody emailed me not too long ago, said that Container Store still has them and they're still the same price. So that's a darn good deal. But anyway, I'm using this alizarin crimson to indicate those deep centers in the flowers. I just kind of let my brush dance on the canvas. This is pretty much how I paint the trumpet vine. If you'd like to watch the rest of this painting, you want to see how it turns out, visit my blog. The link is in the description below. The address is also on the final frame of my YouTube video. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to my blog. And again, I have so many people say, "Well, gosh, I love this painting. I'd like to see how it turns out." Well, just come visit my blog and you'll see. And, just a few more to do here, and we'll have these trumpet vines finished up. They're a cheerful flower, and boy, they just cascade. They're just really, really pretty. Put a few little darker buds down in here. And here we go. Finish these guys up. And there we are. So you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I thank you again for watching my videos and my blog, reading my blog.